What is up, guys? So today we're going to talk about the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight. Just give my opinion, my prediction, and I'll probably be up watching it. It's on tonight or tomorrow morning. It's on Netflix, which I don't think you have to order it or I think if you've just got Netflix you can watch it, which these days that's a surprise. Usually after pay-per-view on top of your pay-per-view. You can't afford to be a boxing fan these days. But anyway, I'm going to talk about that, and then I'm going to talk about one of my old friends who I used to go to school with, I grew up with, and it turns out he's a pedophile. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to talk about today, so let's get into it. So, we'll start off with Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. Now, when it first got announced that Jake Paul was going to fight Mike Tyson, I was like, oh man, this is ridiculous. Jake's going to win easy. Mike Tyson's, he's older, like 10 years older than me, and I struggle. I've got a bad hip, I've got a bad shoulder, I've got a bad knee. I struggle getting out of bed in the morning, and he's older than me, way older. So, when it first got announced, I was like, what a stupid fight. But the more it's gone on, I've got involved in it, I've started watching the build-up, and it's half convinced me that Mike's got a chance here, And the reason why, it's based on, number one, he's been doing it his whole life. It doesn't matter how old you are, really. If you know the moves, you know how to set up shots, you know how to work the cardio, take breaks. That don't go away from you. But, he's just so old. I can't imagine him doing it at this age. I can actually see either guy winning, I can see Mike knocking him out in the first round, or I can see Jake breaking him down and just outlasting him. Because if you remember to his last professional fight before he retired, I think it was Kevin McBride, and he just came out, threw about 100 punches, and then just flopped on the floor and couldn't be bothered to get back up. And I think by this point he was just doing it for money, he wasn't interested. But then when you saw the weigh-in yesterday, he's come charging up, slapped Jake. He looks like he's really, really going to do it, He's really involved in it, he's trained hard. And there was a good quote from him where he said, Jake's a manufactured killer with cameras and smoke and mirrors. He said, I'm an actual killer. Which, that resonated with me because it's true. And Jake always likes to tell everyone he's about that life. He's built different, he's a savage and all that. But, his actions don't reflect that. Like, he did something with Floyd Mayweather. Stole his out and run away and made him look a bit silly. So Mayweather says, I'm going to get him back. I'm going to see him in the street. And that's exactly what he did. He saw him in the street and he's pulled up with all his bodyguards. And what did Jake do? Ran away and made a video about it. I mean, a killer. What do you think Mike Tyson would have done if Mayweather's team pulled up on him? I'll tell you what he'd have done. He'd have steamed into him because he's about that. Even when he was fighting Nate Diaz, he was talking about being a killer. Do you think Nate Diaz would have run away? No, he'd have got stuck into him. He'd have probably got him in a headlock and choked him out. But, that's what Jake does. He fights old, retired UFC fighters, and he puts all these bells and whistles on it. Oh, he's an ex-champion. He's an ex-UFC champion. But it don't really matter, does it? It's like if I played Roger Federer at table tennis. If I beat him at table tennis, it's still tennis. It's the same sport. Does that make me? Am I a world? Because Roger Federer is a world champion in tennis. How can I say, I beat a world champion at table tennis? It don't matter. It doesn't mean anything because they're two completely different sports. And most of the guys in the UFC, they can't even. And I'm not disrespecting the UFC. It's a real tough, hard game. But a lot of the guys don't even know how to throw a proper punch, like a basic jab. I remember Ben Askren, he fought Jake, and it showed you sparring videos, and this Ben Askren's in the sparring, he's going like that, trying to hammer fist him. What are you doing? You can't even throw a basic jab. And I remember when the fight happened, like Jake was weighed in, and he was stood there with his £1 million shorts on, all his team around him, loads of gold on, robots dancing in the background, and old Ben Askren stood there scruffy hair with his bloody pot belly hanging out. I'm like, It's obvious he's going to win this. But, you know, he knocked him out in the first round. Then he went on and beat some more UFC guys that didn't really know how to punch. They just followed him around and walked onto shots. But Mike's not going to do that. You know, Mike knows how to cut off the ring. And one thing what makes me like start thinking Mike can do it, another thing is going back to his last fight, which was against Roy Jones, who's a legend in boxing. Anyone who follows boxing knows all about Roy. And he says when he hit him with a jab, he says, fucking hell, he said he had no business being that strong. He says he shouldn't have been that powerful, you know. And he said he went back to his corner and they were saying, why don't you use the uppercut? He says, fuck that, I'm not giving him no ideas. They're saying, why are you holding him all the time? He says, because he doesn't know how to play, he's a killer, you know. And if I weren't holding him, he would have knocked me out. And that was like, I don't know if it was like 5 years ago. So, you know, if you can tap back into that, he looks like he's serious. It looks like he's got that face on, you know, like, I want to kill this young man. So, yeah, I hope he does knock him out. I hope he does win. Because, see, the thing with Jake is, just when you start thinking, oh, he's taking this serious, he comes out with a fucking chicken on his head, and you're like, and he talks, like, if he was just going down his craft, sharpening his tools, going through boxing like you're supposed to, being humble, then I'd get behind him. I say, yeah, this kid's all right, you know, he's doing well, good luck to him. But he's not. He's going out there, knocking out old men who can just had a hip replacement and then screaming that he's going to beat Canelo. And there's no wrong with having goals. But, you know, you can't come out saying, oh, yeah, Canelo's a pussy, I'll knock him out. It's like, yeah, what a dick. You know, Canelo's like one of the best to ever do it. And let's remember, the first time he actually fought a proper boxer was Tommy Fury, and he lost that convincingly. And I told anybody at the time, I says, look, get your money on Tommy Fury, he's going to win. And people who know boxing were saying, oh no, I think Jake's going to win. I'm like, they're not going to win. He'll beat him with the jab. And that's exactly what he did. And I had a bet at the bookies. So yeah, I was buzzing on that. And you think that'd like humble him, but it didn't. He just is even worse now. But yeah, I really hope Mike wins. I really hope he can roll back the years, even just for a couple of rounds. It's 8 2-minute rounds, so you know he might be able to get to him. But I can see it going either way. Like I say, I could see Mike knocking him out in 10 seconds, but I could see Jake like more than him, pushing him back, and just youth, you know, prevailing. So yeah, I think Jake's probably going to win. You know, Mike will come out. Give it his all for a couple of rounds and then just fall on the floor knackered. But anyway, yeah, that's my opinion on the whole fight. Now, one of my mates growing up, he was a good friend of mine. Went to school with him. I know his family really well. I used to knock around with his brother. We were best friends. So I knew this guy really well. And he was going out with a lass called, well, I don't need to mention any names. He was going out with a lass who I knew. I knew her brother. And I used to go around. When I was a drug addict, nobody wanted no to do with me. But he used to say, come round to my house, we'll have a drink, you know, we had a bonfire, have a drink. So he had time for me, and I always respected that when nobody else would, because no one wants to be around a drug addict. And then I went to prison, you know, for a couple of years. Got out and I saw her in town. I says, oh, you still with Steve? And she says, no, I'm a fuck. He tried fondling my underage daughter or something. And I was like, what? Nah, no way. And I wouldn't have it. I'm saying, nah, she's just, you know, she's just angry because he broke up with her or something. There's no way I grew up with this guy. There's no way he's a wrong un. And so I just put it to the back of my mind. And then I saw her brother, who I know. And he says, yeah, it's right, he's a wrong un. I'm like, nah. No way. And then the other day, I was on Facebook, Free Press, newspaper. He's just got 5 years for doing it to some other lass. Going in a room while she was asleep or something and doing all this pedo shit. And he's in prison now. He got 5 years for it. And it's just disgusting. It's vile. And now all his family, they've got to live with that, knowing that he's done all this. So they probably feel shit as well. And then there's her family. You know, her kids, and you know, it just affects so many people. And he's going to be on the numbers in prison. He's probably going to get bashed up. And now when I see him, I'm going to have to put it on him, you know, and I don't want to. But you can't. He's a fucking wrong un, pedo. So what can you do, you know? And I think back and I think, oh man, that was my fucking mate and all growing up, and it's just fucking disgusting. It's vile, and he's probably on the numbers now, and now he's got that for the rest of his life. He's going to be labelled a wrong, and his family are going to have to live with that now, knowing that his brothers are wrong and his sons are wrong, and you know, it's just fucking vile, disgusting. But yeah, that's the video for today. That's my opinion on the whole Jake Paul, Mike Tyson, and just this fucking vile, disgusting wrong, and 5 years in prison. And I hope he suffers every day of it. Bonjour.